Hello, welcome to week 7 of Advanced Criminological Theory. You're by now, your term papers have been turned in, and I will get those graded and back to you as soon as possible. This week, goal is to talk about economic crime, and in particular, and one particular type of that, in addition, which is white-collar crime. And my purpose in this week's video is just to give you an overview of those issues. And so, part 1 of the video, I'll talk about property crime, white-collar crime, and then in part 2, of course, that's the plan now. By the time I get to the end of these, it may not be the plan anymore, but then part 2, the plan right now is to talk about so-called victimless crimes, or public order crimes. Those are about property crime. First, let me go just kind of as a brief list. It's a brief overview. Talk about some of the major forms of property crime. I'll just give you about 4 of them. We start with robbery, which is the use of or the threat of the use of force to take someone else's stuff. There is larceny, which is taking and carrying away a personal property of another. So your basic theft. Motor vehicle theft, obviously stealing cars, boats, RVs, that sort of thing. And then burglary. Burglary is the funny one because burglary is the unlawful entry in a structure to commit a theft or some other felony. You can actually commit burglary without stealing anything. If you enter into a home with the intention to commit some sort of assault, that's also burglary. But remember, our context, we're talking about property crime. So we'll stick to burglary as the unlawful entry for the purpose of a theft in the structure. It's either a residence or a business. Just keep in mind, when we're talking about in the context of property crime this week, keep in mind burglary is not limited to unlawful entry for the purposes of a theft. With burglary, keep in mind there's those 2 elements, the unlawful entry. Burglary has been referred to as a crime of stealth. This is the type of crime where people break into your home when you're not there. And then burglary happens both in residences and commercial buildings. Residential burglary is more common than commercial burglary. Most likely to happen during the day when a homeowner is at work or otherwise away from the home. Burglary is what scholars consider to be a cold crime, in that it's got a very low clearance rate, 10 to 15%. But we call it cold crime because by the time it's generally reported, the offenders have been long gone. Usually burglary happens during the day. People get home from work, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. The criminals have been gone for hours when the crime has occurred, which makes it difficult to solve. And it's one of I usually, in a lot of my classes, is the point where I give people a lecture about misuse of 911. Keep in mind that the 911 system is for emergencies. When you come home at the end of the day and find your home's been broken into and all your stuff is gone, unless the thief is still there, it's no longer an emergency, and not really an appropriate use of the 911 system. It's no longer an emergency when the criminal is not there, when there's no immediate threat to life or property. Your typical burglars, an age range of somewhere between 16 and 24 years old. Usually burglars are males. About 86% of all burglars are male. Females in the involved burglary are usually the accomplices of males. Burglary tends to be a Caucasian crime. 69% of all burglars are Caucasian. Researcher named Roberto, when he looked at professional burglars and why they pick targets, and here's, you take these away, you can say here's how you protect your home from being burgled, is by understanding how burglars pick their targets. And there are several selection criteria that burglars use. Um, Mostly burglars are looking for an ease of access. Is it easy to get to? Is it easy to get out of? Um, are there available escape routes? Is it easy to get in and out without being seen or detected? Secondly, burglars look at the appearance of the house. Does the home look affluent? Can the burglar look in the window and see your 46-inch widescreen TV and your really expensive couch and your nice new appearance to your house? The moral of the story there is don't put the stuff that's really attracted to burglars in front of open windows. The burglars also look for other clues, things like the car sitting in your driveway. How well taken care of the yard is. Wealthy people tend to take really good care of their stuff. Not to say that non-wealthy people don't, but people that have good money, they're the ones they're not mowing their own lawn. Once a week or so, they've got the little yard crew out and the hired hands taking care of the yard, and the hedges are all trimmed perfectly, and you can tell the difference between an affluent home and one that's not. A third selection criteria could be how inconspicuous the burglar can seem in the neighborhood. One of the things police look for is people who seem out of place. Well, police look for anything that looks out of place. And so, burglars don't want to be seen in neighborhoods where they seem out of place. They'll do it if there's a good enough target, but they want to feel inconspicuous. They want to feel unnoticed. So not being noticed, not being remembered is a key to being a successful burglar. Let's see, they look for another criteria. They look for the frequency of police patrols. While we see that there's not that great a deterrent effect, if the police can increase patrol, overall there's not a big decrease in crime, but it will deter burglars. And the simple matter is, if I'm a burglar and I've got a choice between two neighborhoods, and one neighborhood has fairly frequent patrol going through it, and the other one doesn't, I'm going to pick the neighborhood the police don't spend a lot of time in. That's why, for instance, when the hurricane went through Huntsville several years ago, and we had some problems with burglars taking advantage of the lack of power and things like that. The Walker County Sheriff's Office increased patrol in several neighborhoods out in the county, just as a way to discourage criminals. Of course, all they really did was displace them. But then again, they displaced them out of my neighborhood into somebody else's. So, from my perspective, it wasn't a bad thing. For whoever's neighborhood the criminals were displaced into, not so good. And then finally, and this one is important to me personally, is that burglars look for neighborhoods where the people don't seem to know each other very well. One of the the major indicators of a socially disorganized neighborhood is the lack of collective efficacy in that neighborhood. And what I mean by that is where you have neighborhoods where people don't look out for each other, where people don't know each other, then you increase your risk for crime. And burglars look for this. If they notice neighborhoods where people don't know each other, that's a good target. Because if you don't know your neighbors, how do you know if the car in the driveway at the house next to you and the guy going in and out of the house with the TV and the stereo isn't just the guy that lives there moving out? And if you don't know your neighbor, that's the story he's going to tell you Oh, we got a new place, like a new job down the other place, and now we're just moving over to the bigger place. And thanks for your help. You want to help us with this stuff? And then you're really in a bad way. In Repetto's study of professional burglars, he looked at how they got into homes. Entry for burglars usually through a door. With using a variety of tools. Burglars like to use screwdrivers, crowbars, flat-bladed knives, pipe wrenches are handy, vice grips, um, tape for windows if they're going to use a window. When they're going through the door, 40% of them just kick the door or hit it with a shoulder and smash their way in. Makes you feel happy, doesn't it? All you're going to go is pause the video, go look at the sturdiness of your door. And then when you come back, I'll tell you that the other types of door entry, about 20% just pry it open. Only 15% attack the lock. 10% just find the door already unlocked. 6% use a key. And only 5% of burglars actually pick a lock. I tease my students a lot because we keep the doors locked in the classrooms to keep the computers from growing feet and walking away. And I tease my students as they're standing around the outside of the door waiting for me. Sometimes I'll tease them and say, bunch of future police officers, and you can't pick a lock. But the reality is, very few burglars can actually pick a lock, and it's not a necessary skill. It's just, as you can tell by the statistic, it's just easier just to kick it or slam it with your shoulder, and just watch the door frame give away. The doorknob will still be locked, and the door frame will just break. Very common on mobile homes. Mobile home door frames are not the most sturdy things in the world. I had the dock of my home that I own in Huntsville, which is a nice little double wide out in the country. I had trouble with one of my doors not securing, and sent my contractor out there. I thought, well, maybe it was a problem with the door. The door handled the lock, so I sent my contractor out there to replace them. He came back and told me, there's nothing wrong with the door. It's door frame, and it's typical for older mobile homes to have weak door frames. Let's see, with professional burglars, not talking about amateurs, talking about professional burglars. When they go into a home after they've forced their way into a home, they're looking for cash. They're going to go straight to the bedroom and look for money. And then they're going to look for things. They're going to look for value by the pound. They're going to look for portable things that they can easily turn into cash. So they're looking for jewelry, smaller home electronics, silverware. At least back from the days when silverware was actually silverware. They're looking for cameras, art, easily portable art, stamps. Things that can be easily turned into money. What are some things, I talked about selection criteria. When looking at burglars, studying them, Repetto found about 4 things that would have discouraged or stopped burglars. In particular was any evidence that someone's at home. Most burglars will bypass a house that appears to be occupied. Why take the risk of getting caught, or even worse, you're in Texas, why take the risk of getting shot by going into a home that might not have someone in it? Go somewhere where no one's home. The second thing that tends to stop burglars is any evidence of an alarm. It's kind of funny. Sometimes just the ADT sticker on the window is just as effective as actually paying for the service. Because again, if I got a choice between 2 houses and one looks like it might have an alarm system and the other one doesn't, I'm just going to take the one that doesn't have the alarm or doesn't look like it has one. Burglars tend to be discouraged if it looks like the neighbors are watching. Sometimes I think the whole neighborhood watch thing is kind of hokey, but when my family lived in Las Vegas, which is a very high burglary rate during the time, it may still be the same. I haven't looked at the burglary rates in Vegas lately, but when we were living in Vegas, the burglary rates were very high, And so we had one of those neighborhood watch programs, and for the first 6 months, everyone was really active and you know paid attention to the little schedule and uh, watched out for everyone's house. After about 6 months, it boiled down to an excuse to have a monthly block party, but I think that's how neighborhood watch programs tend to go sometimes. But we didn't have any burglaries in our neighborhood for that 6 months that we were all vigilant, looking out for each other's homes. And then the final thing on Repetto's list is the presence of a dog. Uh, my I got three dogs in the house. Two of them are mine. Um, they're not the most vicious things. In fact, the most vicious of the three of them is about this big and refuses to be potty trained. He's gonna If someone breaks in my house, he's gonna pee on their shoe. Um, you know, but he's got a bark on him. He's a little Chiweenie, and Chiweenies and Dachshunds. Um, brave little dogs, dumb as rocks. Um, just downright stupid, but brave, and they've got a bark on them. My sister-in-law's dachshund that's been staying with us for forever now. Um, you know, Regular, typical mini dachshund size. Couldn't hurt a flea if he tried. But he's got this deep bark that makes you think there's a big dog, which is a good thing because I have a big dog um, that she'll bark at you, but she'll do it from behind a door. She's hilarious. She's like a an inmate in a prison who gets really brave when he's in handcuffs or inside in a segregation cell where he knows no one can hurt him. Yeah, that's my big dog. I feel safe. Okay, enough about burglary. Let's talk about larceny, and particularly, let's talk specific type of larceny. Let's talk about shoplifting. Because shoplifting is about 15% of larcenies. Shoplifters are the reason why our prices keep going up at Walmart. Because they just pass on the cost to us. Average value in a typical shoplifting incident, the average value of what's stolen is about $56. But overall, we're talking about an overall cost to retail outlets between 10 and 13 billion. That's billion with a B annually, and these costs are just passed on to the consumers. Yay! Thanks shoplifters. This is prior to the 1970s. We consider shoplifting a female crime. It was primarily committed by women. These days, not so much. Uh, there are multiple types of shoplifters. These are always fun to talk about. Um, the first type of shoplifter is the booster. This is a professional shoplifter using techniques that date back to the 1500s. Um, they particularly back then, they used specialized clothing that was designed to hold the stuff they were stealing. Um, Sometimes their jewelry, you would hang stuff off a neck chain. Um, they would have, their skirts or their outfits were designed or redesigned for shoplifting. This is about 10% of all your shop. About only 10% do it professionally and actually make a living or significantly supplement their income using shoplifting. Let's see. Second type is a snitch. This is a shoplifter that steals for personal use. Um, Back part of the 70s, these were respectable middle class women. Typically carry like a large purse or a big bag, often referred to as a bad bag. Um, Very traumatic if they were caught. Oh, I've never done this before. It's just, they find a little money, stuff for personal use. Um, those are just kind of two of the different types. What about the stores where they do stop shoplifting? Most people who are observed shoplifting are not prosecuted, which doesn't help the problem any. Only about 46% are prosecuted. Numerous reasons for this. In some cases, it's just too expensive to prosecute shoplifters. Not worth the the benefit of prosecuting does not appear to be outweigh uh, the costs. It can create some bad publicity. Most shoplifters, like I said, only 10% of them are professional shoplifters. The rest of them are some other type that do it occasionally or for the thrill. Um, and most, once they're caught, won't do it again. Um, and then some stores are they're silly. They're afraid of being sued. Um, and so they just they reclaim their merchandise and put a criminal trespass on the shoplifter and send them on their merry way. What are other types of larceny? How about pickpockets? That's only about 1%, but with an average loss of about $430. Pickpockets tend to hang out where tourists are. And pickpockets are part of the reason why we don't have public executions anymore. It's not the major reason, not any of the major reasons, but it is a reason. Because when we had public executions and everybody came out to view the execution, pickpockets had a field day. Um, those few that do it professionally tend to work in a group of about 3 to 5, called a mob. One person will steal the wallet, will reef the wallet as the term, and then they'll pass it on to other people in the group. They are what you see on the movie is one person bumps into the victim and steals the wallet. They do actually avoid bumping or jarring victims because that calls attention to them. These guys are um, adept at stealing your wallet or getting their hand in and out of your purse without being felt or noticed, and then they just pass it on. And so with the professional pickpockets, if you don't notice, even if you notice, if you don't notice quickly, your item is going to be long gone, and the person you catch isn't going to have your stolen property on them, and then it's really hard to prove to the police, say, this person pickpocketed me, when your stuff's not on them anymore. Let's see, what else are the types of property crimes? About motor vehicle theft. For motor vehicle theft, we're talking about 1.1 million cars are stolen per year. Has an extremely high clearance rate of about 15%. But unlike this, the funny thing is, motor vehicle theft, of all the types of property crime, has about the highest reporting rate. About 90% of car thefts are reported. Why? Because most cars are required to be insured. Um, and when you've got insurance on your car and it gets stolen, you call the police and you get your police report, so you can get your insurance settlement. And so it's it's a heavily reported crime because cars are the most heavily insured property we have. When it comes to ones that are reported, about 60% of about 60% of vehicles are actually recovered by the police. So if your car is stolen, you've got a pretty good chance of getting your car back, or your insurance company has a good shot of getting your car back. Car thieves average at 16 to 24 years old. About 82% of them are male. Um, and there are numerous types of car thieves. There's joyriders who just steal the car for fun. This is your most common type of auto thief, the joyriders. And when you have a joyrider, your chances are you're going to get your car back. Whenever the joyrider gets done having fun with your car, they're going to abandon it somewhere. The police are going to find it, and you're going to get your car back, hopefully in decent condition. And if you've got good insurance, it's going to get fixed anyway. Some we call another type of car thief a short-termer. There's someone that steals a car to get somewhere. Again, you'll probably get your car back. This is the person who needs to get from point A to point B, so they steal your car to do it. And when they get where they're going, they abandon the car, and police find it, and you get it back. The long-termers steal cars for personal use, for regular personal use. This is one of the types where you're probably not going to get your car back. They're going to steal your car. They're going to take steps to conceal it from the police, or conceal the car's identity from the police. and they're going to keep your car. Let's see, two more types. There's a felony-related thief. They steal the car to commit a crime. It's usually professional burglars or robbers who steal a car so they can fit in a neighborhood. Um, and then finally, you get your professional car thief. This is a profit-related auto thief. They steal cars and drive them to chop shops or across the border and sell them in Mexico for taxis. With this type, you're not getting your car back. At the very least, you're getting it back in pieces. Um, and typical tools, Slim Jim, slide hammer. Not that hard to steal a car. Of course, one type of stealing a car is carjacking. If we're not going to just use a Slim Jim and to steal a car, then there's always steal the car while you're in it, which is carjacking. Of course, let me give you a better definition. Carjacking being auto theft by force or threat of force. This is only about, while there's a great public fear about carjacking, I think everyone's just afraid someone's going to walk up to them, stick a gun in the window of their car, and say, get out of your car. This is only about 2% of all motor vehicle thefts, and it's only successful about half the time. Carjacking victims tend to be young black males. Most victims escape without injury. But this is a low-income crime. It usually happens in lower-income areas. Um, Tends to be in cities rather than rural areas. And usually, the carjacker leaves the victims alive. Weapons are present about 3/4 of the time. Um, and usually it's handguns. Stick a gun through the window of your car and say, give me your car. These carjackers, usually between the ages of 21 and 29, more likely to be black and male. Um, More than half, 56%, committed by two or more offenders. And usually about half of carjackings are completed, so it's half successful. A few other facts about carjacking. Usually it happens at night, but if it's going to be completed or successful, it happens during the day, more often than not. Tends to happen within 5 miles of the victim's home. Mostly occurs in an open area or near some sort of public transportation. And most of the time about 78% of the time the car is recovered. So it's not bad. Okay, I think that's all I want to know about for those types of crimes. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to stop here, get this one posted, and then I'll come back in part 2 about white collar crime, and I guess I'll have a part 3 about public order crime.